If you're a yoga teacher and you find yourself in this place where you know it's time to do something different because maybe you're not enjoying your classes as much, or you feel like the workload has just become more than one person can do, it might be time to build a team. Or maybe your things are going really well and the workload is just more than one person can do, and you're thinking maybe it's time to bring on some extra hands to help serve your people. Listen, we get this question a lot, and we want to talk to you about what it looks like to take your next steps as a yoga teacher, as a business owner, an entrepreneur, and building your teams. Welcome to the Jesus Coffee Yoga Podcast. We're so excited to sit down with yoga teachers, fitness instructor, and business builders just like you and talk all things, or most things, yoga, Jesus, coffee. We'll sit and have a little chat. We're so glad you're here. If you are new to the podcast, hello, welcome, and let us know where you're coming from and how you found us. We just want to connect with you, and we hope that today's episode is meaningful to you as you look at your next steps as a business owner, as a yoga teacher. And we're going to talk about building teams. Why, when, how, who, all of the things. So yeah, grab your cup of coffee or whatever you might be sipping on, and let's have a chat.
So I'm drinking coffee this morning.
This morning.
What do you got? What do you got in your cup? Well, I guess it's morning when we're recording this. I don't know.
That's right.
Listening to this, it could be 2 a.m. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why we say, and any other beverage, it could just be your water with lemon. I am drinking my mushroom coffee. I haven't been drinking it the last couple of weeks because this, like we were talking before, like I am such a habit and routine person, which most of us are. Some people are on purpose and some people aren't, but most of us are routine people. And every day on the way so my kids just got out of school. Every day on the way to school, that's when I usually do like my mushroom coffee. And then if I have any left over when we start recording, then I'll just drink it here. But since I had an injury a couple weeks ago, about almost 4 weeks ago, I had my foot crushed in between two vehicles. I have not been taking my kids to school, and they're out now at this point. And I have not been drinking my mushroom coffee. So I'm telling all of that to let you know I am here drinking my mushroom coffee because I need something warm and delicious to brighten up this day in this podcast. So that's what's in my cup.
Well, I'm excited about this topic because it's something that, Kristen, you are, I would say, innately gifted in, is not just building a team, but a big component of that is developing people and spotting talent or capabilities, or what's the word I'm looking for? Spotting
Potential.
Why was that word so hard? Clearly, I have not had enough coffee yet.
That's why we're
Spotting
here.
potential. So spotting potential in others, even things that they might not see in themselves, and drawing them into your world and giving them a spot on the team. So like all of that stuff, I feel like you're innately gifted in, and other people could really use some of these things that maybe you haven't even put structure around, but like it's up there in your head, and I'm going to do my best to draw it out of you in this conversation.
Well, and that's what makes us a good team because there are like so many. You asked me something earlier and I was like, I don't know. I don't know that I've ever been asked that question, and I need some time to think about it. But there is something that just feels natural, like you said, like an innate, like just God-given sense of, I mean, I don't know what it is about me, but I do know that I feel like I can see things in people that they maybe can't see in themselves or they've lost sight of. And I want to draw that out and give them space to use that because I truly believe like we are better together. Like, I think it was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Was it Stephen Covey? Whoever wrote that book. He says you can go faster alone, you can go farther together. And he's using like you can either build the wall or you can build the table, right? Like, and I love that idea. I've always loved the idea of doing things together. Like I'm a sprinter by nature. So sometimes I feel like I leave people in my dust on accident. And it's something I have worked through or I'm working through to not make people feel like left behind. But I get excited about something and I just run. But like, I'm like, we're so much better together. And so, and I believe we can carry our mission and the things that I am excited about and that I feel passionate about. The people on my team may not feel equally as passionate about those specific things. But if the mission is just to help empower people to live freely, physically, mentally, and spiritually, we can all bring what we're passionate about to that same table, right? And extend our reach. And so when the mission is clear, like the methods and the models are around it, they can change. The people can change, the ideals around it, all of that. And so that's yeah, I love that idea of just bringing people together, giving them like what's in your hands. Okay, use that. Let's go. Like let's help these people. And so this is something that people ask often because it does seem very natural for me to just constantly kind of form circles of people around me. And I love one of my favorite things is connecting them with each other. So right now I'm in my retreat era. We've talked quite a bit about retreats, but that's just the season I'm in right now. And I love so much seeing them connect with each other. And like months or even like years later, I'll see them like responding to each other's like Facebook posts and pictures of them where they've like done things outside. And it's so cool because it's like they get to like interact with each other. So I do get a lot of questions. Well, how do you do this? So that's what we're going to try to talk through about like, how do I know it's time to bring someone or people into my team, into what I'm doing? Is that something I want to do right now in the season? Like there's been seasons where it's just been me for like 2 years plus. It was just me. So we'll talk through some of that. And then there's other things where it's like, this is a non-negotiable. Like these people need to be on your team, so to speak, helping you in these ways. So let's kind of work through that a little bit.
So why don't we start with, how does someone know when to do it? Like, when is the right time to start bringing someone onto their team?
I mean, this can be, I can tell you my experiences can be different for each person. I think as leaders in general, like we need to operate with a high sense of self-awareness and our tendencies, our, where we're at, like our levels and things like that. So for me, I know that when I get to a point where I feel like I'm lacking the energy or the passion or the desire to do the work, and the work being, in this sense, physically teaching students, right? Like teaching them the yoga class and holding the experience, all of that. So I think that for me, when I feel like kind of that I don't want to go to class today. Not that every single time I teach class, because there's other factors like, babies were up all night or whatever. Like we can't just go based off feelings. But if I constantly find myself lacking the energy and passion and desire to perform the duty, then that's an indicator to me that I am getting close to burning out or something needs to change. So whether that's I need to take a step back, and many times like in our spaces we can't do that because time is money, right? So like when I teach classes, I make money. That's the trade. So or whether that means I need to duplicate myself. Another thing is like if I just don't know how to do the work. So that would look maybe like if I had a lot of clients asking me for strength training. And it's like, I want to offer you strength training, but that is not my expertise. That is not what I'm strong in. That's not what, whatever that is, but I want to be able to offer that. That means I need to bring somebody in. And this can be on the business side of things too. So like we've talked like websites and we'll get a little bit more into some of that, but like, when do I know it's time to hire someone to do some of those things? But for me as a yoga teacher, I'll just keep speaking to that for now, is it's just outside of my wheelhouse. And I don't, okay, so like for example, like if I had an overwhelming amount of people asking for kids yoga, I'm like, kids yoga is not in my wheelhouse. Like, and I'm, again, self-awareness, right? Like that's, as leaders, I think that we have to just be constantly aware of what's true in our mind, like what's happening, what's true. I am not going to be your kids yoga teacher. Like I'm just not, like that's not my style, my personality. Can I do it? Absolutely. Like, so when my kids' schools call and say, will you come teach yoga? Of course I will, but I'm not going to teach that every day or every week going on. So it's outside of my expertise or my wheelhouse. And then the last thing I think that I would be kind of an indicator or red flag that it's time to bring someone into, especially the teaching space, is really just my lack of time. Like I feel like I'm kind of capped out at how many classes I'm willing to teach. And for me, I know that number. And I would honestly say in this season, it's different than it was in the season before when it was just me. Mine was 8 classes. I was willing to teach up to 8 classes, and then maybe 1 or 2 as an off situation. So if we were doing like a pop up or I was doing a wedding or something like that, but on a regular basis, that was my max of what I was willing to teach. When the need for more classes arose, that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to honor this and I'm going to bring somebody in and let them start taking on classes for me. So I'm not now teaching 10 classes a week, knowing because I'm self-aware in this way about, especially about my energy, knowing that it's going to be too much. It's going to be too much as an ongoing situation. So lack of time. So lack of energy and passion, and then lack of expertise or knowledge or just kind of being outside my wheelhouse, and then lack of time. That's some of the indicators that I would say that in the past I've been like, okay, it's time to bring someone else in.
Yeah, that's good. And maybe just to add on to that, so maybe those are the indications. You might also hear these thoughts, or you catch yourself saying these things, like, I just don't want to do this anymore, which that could be a red flag for something else. But often that's just an indication that you're overworked, or something isn't working, and it needs to change. And it could be bringing on more help, or just, I can't keep up this pace. Like, I have more work than I can handle, and I just need someone else to handle that. You might be thinking burnout. If you're hearing the word, like, I just feel like I'm burning out or I'm burnt out, that's a good indication. Or on the flip side, it might be a positive note. So those are all like negative things, or like struggles. You also might want to grow. Maybe things are going really well and you want to grow even more. You want to offer more stuff to your community and your students. Or you want to make more money, which it's okay to want to make more money. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, I keep saying this, we need to do an episode just about money, because sometimes that kind of gets in the way of things or muddies the water. When we're Christians, we're like, oh, I don't know if I should make more money. Is that okay? And yes, it is okay. Money is just a thing. It's not a big deal. We need money to survive and live, and it's just a thing. Or maybe, like Kristen had said, there might be things you want to offer to your community that you just don't have the expertise. I brought up in our pre-planning session about aerial. What if you wanted to offer aerial for your students, but you can't teach that yet? Maybe you're not certified in something.
I was gonna say, and like that's just because this is something I really truly do want to offer in my studio once we have the rigging for it. And I have a desire to do that. And so I'm going to go get certified. But if it's something that I don't feel excited about, or I'm not like, yes, I want to offer this, that's when I'm like, okay, well, who can teach Pilates or who can teach strength training? So like, just as you said that, I was like, oh, I do want to teach aerial. That makes me, that's an indicator, right? So just paying attention to like those, yes, I want to do this. And then, yes, I want to do this, but someone else can lead it. I
Yeah.
just wanted to share that real time.
Even with that, just a little tactical tip that, um, if you just have the desire, I just want to do this, and you know it, just do it. But if you're like, I don't know if my community wants this or not, something you could do is find someone who already has that skill set, bring them in to do a series or a pop up. And if people are like, yeah, like, they'll tell you, your community will tell you if they want that or not by buying a class, right? By joining the class. So, just consider that too. Sometimes you just love it and you want to do it. If you're a power girl and I want to start offering power, then just do it. If you need to get more certifications, do it. But if you're not sure, like, that's a way to kind of test the waters. Hire someone to do it on a one-off basis and see how your community responds. So I want to preface the rest of this conversation with, you might not be ready, and you don't have to do this. Some people want to grow. Some people want to build a bigger thing, and some people don't. And like, we're not telling you that you should. We're not telling you that you should want something that you don't want. So this is just for the people who find themselves, yeah, that's me. I do want to grow a team. I do want to build this a little bit bigger. And it doesn't have to be huge. There was a time in my life, so my video business, where I was saying, like, I don't want to create this huge agency. Agency is a term in the marketing world, and you create this big business that like services all these clients and does all of this stuff. I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want to manage a team of like 20 or 50 people. That's not what I want. But it's not a either or. Like, I used to think it was kind of like, it's either that or this. Like, no, there's all this gray in between. And it is possible to build in a way that offers growth and opportunity, but that doesn't stretch you thin, that doesn't financially obligate you to this huge payroll. Like there's a smart way to go about building and growing and adding team members without jeopardizing everything that you've created. And I think some people sometimes jump off the deep end. They're like, well, I need help. So I'm going to hire someone full time right away. And that's often not a great idea. There's a much safer way, I would say just a smarter way of picking specific things to offload or to delegate or outsource, and not just thinking like I just need to hire another one of me. So in my world, I was thinking, man, I just can't handle the editing anymore. So there's just so much to do and I can't grow the business and do all the editing. Like, what do I do? I need more clients, or I want more clients, but I can't handle more clients. And so my thought was, I just need another one of me. But hiring another one of me is very expensive. uh, Whereas offloading some of the things that other people can do at a much lower rate just makes so much more sense. And a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about came from this book, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. It's an amazing book. I think every business owner should buy it. And I think at any level, you can hire help. And even if it's just, I just want help with social media. I just want help with some of my admin stuff, some paperwork. Like there are people in the Philippines who you can outsource, and I'll do a whole other episode on that because I've hired an editor in the Philippines, and it's been really great for me because it's more affordable for me to have more help, and it's life changing for them because I'm able to pay them really really good amounts of money for their country and what is available to them. So I'll do an episode on that at some point, because even a yoga teacher could hire a part time or even a full time virtual assistant for very very affordable rates, and you can offload a lot of the stuff that you don't really want to do. Social media is a big one, but sometimes we have the tendency to want to hire out the more expensive stuff first, and that's not the best approach. So if you find yourself you have a lot of admin, maybe you have a lot of like you're chasing down clients for payments or tracking stuff, spreadsheets, just stuff that's not actually teaching yoga. Even preparing for a class, there are things that you can offload to someone else so that you have more time and energy. Sometimes it's only about the energy. Maybe it's not even time, but just to have the mental energy or the physical energy to just focus on teaching, and someone else can handle all of these other little things, that can free you up to now have more energy to maybe teach a couple more classes. So that's where so I'm in this group coaching program, and we're on this Monday. Every Monday we have a call with them, and it's just kind of an accountability call. You can talk about what did you say you were going to do? Did you do it? And what are you going to do this week? And on there, I was lamenting a little bit about how I just need to find another one of me. And they were like, "Does anyone hear the red flag Nick just said? Anybody?" And they said, "Yeah, another one of you is very expensive, but there's likely other things you're doing that you don't need to be doing, that a part-time assistant even could handle and take off your plate. If you didn't have all this other stuff to do, could you handle another client?" Well, yeah, I could. So do that. And in this book, Dan, he lays out like, here's the order of things that you should do. So start with some of those things. And I want to break down to a few main categories of things that you might want to outsource or offload or delegate to a team member. There are going to be things that are core to your business. The core, like this is the doing in my business. So for a yoga teacher, is teaching classes. Then there's going to be things that are ancillary, or you still have to do them, but it's not like teaching a class. And there's just a long laundry list of things like billing and managing paperwork, and like the system. If you have a system, or maybe you don't, you need to get a system for like people checking in and buying classes, maybe website maintenance. I want to put a divider here. Creating a new website, I'm going to say is something else, but just like maintaining an existing website, posting to social media, managing your finances, categorizing transactions and bookkeeping and bookwork, um, invoicing, just whatever, all this other stuff that goes along with having a business, but it's not the actual teaching. Those are all great things to start bringing on a team member to help handle some of that stuff. It's the easiest thing to delegate, and it's stuff that really frees you up to do what you're truly gifted and called in. So back to what I was talking about earlier when I said I need to find another one to me. What they had said was, what you do is special. Like the thing that makes you special with what you do is you. And right now, it's going to be very hard, not just financially. It's going to be very hard just to find someone that can do what you do and do it like you. And so taking all this other stuff off that someone else can do really frees me up to still do what I'm best at. And then at some point, there will come a point where, like, now is the time. I have more clients, there's more income to now bring in someone that is at my level. So it's not that hiring that is the wrong thing, it's the wrong timing, it's the wrong order. So for you, I would say offload as much of the other stuff that you can to really free yourself up to teach as much as you want to teach or can handle. And then there will come a point where then you can start bringing in people to actually do the teaching. Because here's what happens. Typically, a business owner, they start a business. There's a book called The E Myth, and Michael Gerber says, like, usually what happens is a technician, so someone who's really good at a thing, decides, I can do this for myself. I'm not going to do this for someone else. I'm going to start my own business. And it's an entrepreneur. How does he say it? It's a technician who suffers from an entrepreneurial seizure, where it's like, I can do this for myself. Well, what I tell people about business is that just because you know how to do a thing doesn't mean you know anything about running a business, providing the thing. They're very different skill sets. And I'm not saying you're not capable of building a business around the thing. Just know that it's a whole different set of skill sets that you will have to learn and grow in. And so a lot of people will just decide, I'm going to start a business and do the thing. And then they realize, oh, I don't know how to do all this other stuff. And they figure it out. They make it work. They grow. And they think, I need to hire more people to do more of the thing. And then what happens is they end up becoming the admin for their own business. And so you hire someone else to do the fun stuff. And then all you're doing is the admin and the paperwork and all the stuff that's not so fun. So if any of this is resonating with you, this is a really good sign. It's time to bring in someone else, not to do the actual teaching, but to do some of the other stuff to free you up a little bit more so that you have the time and the energy to really give the teaching your best effort.
So I think I can see myself in this too. Like when I started, okay, so we started our studio, like we connected and opened up a business together when I was like literally like 2 weeks out of being a yoga teacher. Like I didn't even know what I was doing. So as you're saying all this, I'm like, that was me. Like that was me. Like I wanted to do what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to teach and I wanted a place to teach and I wanted to do it, but I had zero idea. Because to that point, I had been a hairdresser and worked for myself, had zero desire to grow that business with other like opening up my own salon and having other hairstylists or anything like that. Like I had zero. It was just me. I went to work, I did my job, and I came home. Loved it. Fine, great. So when I started looking at, moving into fitness as or yoga specifically as a business, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So that's really where like our partnership kind of came in just organically. And we were already like in each other's lives at that point anyways, but we do get questions like this, like, how do you know like when to bring in, like kind of like where you're talking like different layers of building the teams around you. What I can speak to the most is bringing in other leaders and teachers, but then there's also like the side by side, like the peer, like business partner, and then also the outside things like tax people and lawyers and all of that. And so I think something that you said that I really resonated with was do what you can do, what only you can do, and then let the other people do the things that help you do that best. And so, like, I became a good yoga teacher and even like a good leader because I wasn't trying to do all of the business things at the same time. And I feel very fortunate in that. And I also recognize, like we were talking before, like it definitely was a God thing. It definitely was just the right time, the right place. I put it out there. Like again, like I had to kind of have some humility of like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I want to do these things. Like, and just being honest about what I wanted to be true. And you're like, hey, but I can do these things. I don't really want to teach yoga, but I can do these things. And it just worked out so wonderful. But I think that I just recognized myself in what you were saying and just how I responded to that. And it was just really like conversations of like, okay, and just being honest, like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this, but I really want to do this. So I think that is like kind of maybe the teacher who's listening to this trying to figure out like, is this me? Or like, heck yes, this is me. I really need this. Like just asking yourself those questions and honestly answering them like, am I burnt out? Am I still enjoying this? Am I making the money that I need to make? Am I, trying to do everything and not give anything away and just kind of controlling everything? Like, kind of just really assessing where you're at and then kind of expressing what you want to be true. Like, and we talk about this in like every episode, I feel like, but the more we can honestly say what we want to be true or what we feel like God has called us to do, we can have just more clarity and start to build around that. You know what I mean? Like, then we know where to put the puzzle. Like, we think like God called me to reach people through fitness and faith. Like, I know that without doubt. But that doesn't mean I have to do all my own taxes. That doesn't mean I have to do all my own accounting and all my own marketing because he didn't call me to do those things. They need to get done. But that doesn't mean I have to do them. So I think that it's just really important to kind of come back to like, why am I even doing this in the first place? And like, we're going to have seasons of burnout, and that's a whole nother like leadership situation that we need to continue to discuss, is like caring for the leader and caring for ourselves and things like that. But like, you should truly enjoy what you're doing and be excited about what you're doing in each season, whether you're running fast or whether you're pulling like I'm in a season where I'm kind of pulling back and my team is, keeping pace, and it's amazing and I love it. We have to check our like what we're really thinking, feeling, wanting, sensing, what's really true. And then I think also check like our ego and like our sense of like, well, this is just the way it's always been. Like, I've always run all of the things and done all, but is it working? If it's working, keep doing it. Great. Like, that's great. But like, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I would love to have a business partner. I'd love to have teachers help me, teach the 10 classes that I'm teaching. That would be awesome. I would love to have, someone doing social media for me. Like, if you're feeling that, where you're like, I want that, it's like, pay attention to that and ask yourself some of these hard questions and kind of check like what's not working. And let's start there.
Yeah. One thing I want to touch on before I kind of switch gears or keep that moving is that when it comes to finding a business partner, and I think we'll do a different episode just on that, because we do get those. Well, I say we. Kristen gets that a lot
No,
with the way
no
that
one asked Nick where they can find a Kristen.
how can I find a
People
yoga,
ask me all the time, where do I find a Nick? I'm like, I don't
but
find him.
people often will ask Kristen like, where do I find it? How do I find my Nick? Real quick, I just want to tell you about a resource that we have available for teachers just like you. And it's our free Facebook group that's just for teachers. So if you're not already in that, join the group. I'll put the link in the description. You can go click that. It'll take you right to it and join. And it's a place where you can ask questions and get encouragement and feedback. And it's almost like a free like group coaching program. So get over there. If you need help, that is the place to be. Now back to the show. Just to touch on real quickly, I think business partnerships are very, they can be really fruitful, and they can totally wreck your business as well. And some people rush out and they just try to find a partner for the wrong reasons. All this stuff, like what ends up happening is they end up bringing on a partner to do something they probably should have just hired out. So I want you to avoid that. When you're looking, just real quick on business partners, find someone who has complementary skill sets, not the same skill sets. You don't want another one of you. Otherwise, one of you becomes irrelevant or unnecessary. You want to find someone who has different skill sets or assets. If you don't have any money and you have someone that has money, like, okay, that works. If you have someone who's really good at teaching yoga and someone who is good at the business side and all tech, like we are, like, okay, that works. But someone who just has the same skill sets, you're still going to have to hire out all that other stuff that neither of you know how to do. So there's a time and place for a partnership, and I don't think everyone needs it. Actually, I think a lot of people don't need a partnership, and that just muddies the water, where you could just hire people to work in your business, help you, be on the team, be part of the team. They don't have to have a share of the business. You can pay them like one. You can create profit sharing. You can have incentives for helping the business grow, that when the business makes more money, they make more money. Like we did that even in our studio. We had someone managing the
I do that
studio,
now. Yeah.
and we had like a profit sharing thing. So you can do that without giving equity or giving ownership of the business. So that's all I'll say on that. Just tread carefully. It's like a marriage, and it's your lives are linked, your taxes are linked. Like there's a lot that could go wrong if one of the persons just goes crazy. It can derail or sink the whole business. So just be really really cautious and careful.
Yeah. If you guys have more questions about that, shoot them our way. Like we could maybe just do a whole episode on that, maybe answering questions or I don't know, thinking through some of that with you guys.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, if there's enough interest in that, we'll do one on that. So I think knowing yourself is an important part of this, because there are, you had already said this, the self awareness and reflection. What are you the kind of person? So let me just tell you my story. So I am a technician. I am a perfectionist. I love details. I love doing things with excellence, and I'm really good at a lot of things. And that can be an asset. It can also be a weakness. And I tend to hold on to things longer than I should, or I tend to, uh, even if let's say I'm outsourcing editing to something, I still have this tendency to want to put my mark on it. And so if I have a video editor doing an edit that is probably good enough as it is, I still feel this tug to like go in there and change it and add to it. And sometimes it's needed, sometimes it's not. And so that's an area that I'm working on. So it's very hard to let go of something that I can do well. One, it's a trust issue. Can I trust this person to do this well when it's mine? It's my baby. And if my name is attached to this, and it's going to affect clients if they do this poorly, it's going to reflect negatively on me. So that's an area I struggle with. And it's hard to let go of things. But Dan says in this book, if someone can do it like 80%, it's not, he didn't make this up, but if someone can do something 80% as good as you, like that's good enough. And so for me, where that comes in is maybe it needs to be 90%, maybe it needs to be 100%. Well, the other people can get it to that 80% and still saves me a lot of time. And then I can sprinkle my fairy dust and get it to that 100%. But there are a lot of things where you don't need 100%. Like the 80% is good enough. And what Dan says is 80% done by someone else is 100% freaking awesome. And so there's a lot of that other stuff, the admin stuff and things that don't need to be absolutely perfect and polished. Someone else can do that and do it well. And there are times where people will do it better than you. If it's something that's not your gifting or your skill set, they'll probably do it better than you, and they'll love doing it. And so another area where I struggle is sometimes I hold on to some things too long, and I'm actually robbing someone else of using their gifts and their calling to do what they do best. So there are things that I don't like to do, and by me holding on to that, there's someone who loves to do those things, and I'm robbing them of the chance to use their gifts and to make money doing those things, doing it better than me, doing it for me. And so that those are a couple areas that I struggle with, that I know that, and I constantly have to remind myself of those things. So Kristen, what would you say for you are those things?
Yeah, well, I want to before I answer that, I was thinking of a specific. So yes, those are your struggles, and you are aware of them. And if you're not, I will make you aware of them. That's the best part about having a team, is like people can see things you can't see. And I operate in any professional, really any relationship, but when it comes to business, high trust, high feedback. Trust is given, mistrust is earned when it comes to our partnership. And that is how I operate in pretty much every capacity that I do. And that's why we work really well together. High trust, high feedback. But you had mentioned like these are the areas that you kind of struggle with. I was thinking for this podcast, whenever we started, talking about, okay, we're actually going to do it. We're going to launch it. We're going to all the things. Instead of you doing like all of the artwork like you would normally do, pretty much, you guys, if you see things that are ours, if you hear them, Nick has done them or he has managed that in some way. So it almost caught me off guard when you're like, hey, why don't we reach out to Marissa, which is someone we've worked with. She was on our team for a while, especially during COVID when we were launching like our YTT stuff and all of that. And we found out she was really good at graphic designing. And so we were like, Okay. I was like, okay, all right. All right, he's going to just give it away. All right. That's great. That's wonderful. This is growth. I love it. And it was so much fun to watch like how we were like, here's what we like. Here's what we don't like. Here's our color scheme. Go. And then like what she brought back to us. It was so much fun. Like just seeing her kind of take our personalities, our branding standards, all of that, and just put it together. So those of you watching, or those of you that see like the little graphics for this podcast, like that was something that Nick actually just hired out and delegated, when normally he would do those things himself, which he's really, like he said, he's really good at them. And I would even say like there's times where it's like, I am good at something and I don't even mind doing it, but someone else can do it better and more efficient than I can. Like even if they do it the same amount of like effectiveness and all of that, they might be able to do it just quicker and get it done. And they're not, all of that. And we got to hire her. We got to support her in that way. And then also like her little fingerprints are now on everything we're doing too. So it's kind of cool. Like she's a part of doing what we're doing, even though it's not sitting in front of this camera on a microphone. But like you guys don't even know that she did those things, and now you do. And now she does that. Like I think is just kind of like a little side business that she helps people with their branding and all of that. And I'm like, how cool is this? So, anyways, that was a time where normally you would have just been like, no, I'm going to do all of it, blah, 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 because I can, I'm good at it and all those things. But like, it was like, let's just hire this out. And that was really cool. So wanted to just highlight that for a second. And then your question to me was,
So knowing your tendencies. So my tendency is to the perfectionist thing, holding on to things longer than I should, and doing like DIY stuff just because I can, but I
you know
shouldn't.
what? I think my tendency is kind of the opposite. Like I will do as much as I can, especially if it's in my wheelhouse and I can do it well. And again, like effective and efficient, I'll usually do it. But I think I'm probably the opposite of like, I'll kind of just like jump too soon. Like and then I have in the past, and I think I have kind of grown through this. I've given stuff away too soon. Where it's like, I gave it away because I just didn't want to do it anymore, or it wasn't a strength of mine. Like I can do it okay, but like, I'm not like great at it. So I think I've given things away like that too quickly. Instead of kind of working with them to learn, you know what I mean? Like, and it's caused more issues, like interpersonal issues, sometimes, like where we kind of had to come back and be like, okay, this isn't working, like, so I think that my tendency is kind of the opposite. And you're DIY, I'm a DI who can do this. Like, who else can do this? Like I have this idea, this is great. Who else can do this? But again, I'm kind of aware of like, not really my strong suit. Like right now, something I'm working on, and I'm doing it for the sole sake of learning, is my website. Like I'm looking at what does it look like to change over from MailChimp to Squarespace, because I already use Acuity, which is Square powered, and I use the payment processing, which is all Square. So I'm like, maybe this will just streamline things. And like, I fully recognize that I need to know at least the basics of this, but I will not be managing this on my own. Like I will not continue to manage this on my own outside of just the email system. But so anyways, I think those are probably my tendencies to kind of maybe jump too quickly, or pass things off too quickly, just because it feels too heavy for me to carry. And instead of leaning into it a little bit longer, probably not as long as maybe you would or whatever, but like, like we always use the bar, like when you're squatting, like the bar's just a little too heavy, but I know I can still get back up situation. I could probably stay there a little longer in some situations, but I do feel like I've kind of figured that out along my way.
Okay. I would also add one, and I can say this because you already said it in our pre-planning. You forgot to say it now. Is that sometimes you'll just avoid doing it.
Yeah.
So they're thinking like, I know I need to do this, or I really want to do this. But I just didn't. So email was one for you for a long time. You just didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And here I am years later trying to figure out what this looks like, instead of just learning it on the front end. And again, like you do what you can with what you got. And I'm glad that I started, but I just think looking back, like if I had done some of these things, and that's why we do this podcast, is to help teachers like get through or avoid, get around some of the things that we did or didn't do properly. So That was just one little thing that if I would have just learned it and stuck with it and figured it out 6 years ago, I just think things are still going to be awesome, but I just think things would be different, I guess. But
So just to add on to that, I think there are some things people avoid because maybe they're afraid of like how much it's going to cost, or they're not sure like they're ready for it. And a couple of things that I've flip-flopped on, being the DIYer, and I read a lot. I know a lot about a lot of business stuff, or at least I intellectually know, but maybe haven't experienced yet, or kind of a mix of both. But two of those things that I've changed my views on are taxes and legal issues. And so I used to say like, yeah, you can make an LLC yourself, like, and you can. It's not hard. You can go to your state's Secretary of State website, do a search, file it, pay for it, boom, you have an LLC. Like you can physically do it. But there are some things you need in place to, like, the whole reason of doing an LLC, and I say this way too often. Oh, we'll do an episode on that. So we probably should, on LLCs and legal entities and all that stuff. The whole reason of doing that is to protect yourself in the event of a lawsuit. Like, there's no tax savings at all. LLC has nothing to do with taxes. Doesn't save you any money on taxes. It saves you from being litigated against, or it protects other things you have going on from the business. So you have a yoga business. If someone got hurt and sued you, and you can say all day long, oh, my people love me, they would never do that. You don't know. We're in a very litigious society. You want to protect yourself. If something and someone can sue you when you've done nothing wrong. People can sue you for anything. So you want to have the yoga business like in a little protective ball, that if something happens in that, and let's say someone sues you, and let's say they win, they cannot go after your house. They can't, if you own another business, or your spouse owns another business, or you have assets you have savings, like whatever. Like, if you don't have this protection, they can go after all of that other stuff to fulfill the lawsuit, the judgment. And conversely, if something happens in your personal life, or another business, or whatever, in your husband's business, something can happen to where there's litigation. If you don't have that LLC done correctly, even if you have it, but you're missing some things, they can go after that and now put judgments against your yoga business. So I've flipped, and I really think it's important to always, I say always, hire a lawyer to do things right the first time. So it might cost $800, $1,000, $1,200, whatever it is. Have a lawyer set up the entity and make sure that you have an operating agreement. They set up a corporate book. They set up a few things that make some tax stuff legitimate. So if you ever got audited, like, you've got all your bases covered. So that's one I flipped on. The other is taxes. Now, I've always had someone do my personal taxes because I have rental property and stuff's just it's complicated. But I've done the business taxes, and I've done certain pieces of it for a while. And here's another new episode alert. I recently had a $10,000 tax, not mistake, but lost opportunity that would have saved me $10,000 this year on my 2023 taxes. And it was because I'm a DIYer. I know what I'm doing. And I was just trying to save money and be quick. And I should have consulted my tax person and asked them like the timing of something. All it was the timing of filing something. So I want to be taxed as an S corp. I make enough money that makes sense, and that's something that in that other episode about entities and stuff, I'll mention in that one too. But I filed it for 2024. I'm like, all right, I've passed the threshold. Like, this makes sense. I'm going to do it. And so I did it correctly, but I didn't know that I could have retroactively filed it for 2023. And by not doing that, I paid an extra $10,000 in taxes. Ugh, kills me to say that because I'm still upset. All I had to do was ask somebody, and maybe it paid, I don't know, whatever it was. It would be less than $10,000 to get that advice to say, hey, let's file that for 2023. Here's how you do that. So taxes and legal, pay for expert advice every time. Don't skimp. Don't try to save money on that. They will save you more money than it costs. Okay, so to bring this to a close, I had a few final thoughts that I want to share, and then you can share some as well. That when it comes down to it, the core business things, the ancillary admin kind of work, or the, what I would say, even one-off projects of like doing your website, or the big things that like you do once and you're done, or very, very infrequently. If you have more time than money, do it yourself. Learn to do it yourself. There's courses, there's YouTube videos, like you can learn to do it yourself. If you have more money than time, hire it out. And if you have neither, we need to talk. you probably you probably do have time, but you're not making time for the important things. Right? So you likely are wasting time on things that don't matter, wasting time and maybe energy.
Energy
Um,
management.
it just might be an issue of priorities, and things that you say are important, but things that you're doing are saying something else is important. So maybe just spend some time reflecting on that. If you feel like I don't have time or money, then maybe this isn't that important to you. Maybe you just don't do it. But if it is important and you want to do it, then you will make the time.
Big facts. Big facts. Okay, so I have a couple, as we close this up, just a couple of reflection questions for you to think through, and then kind of maybe even just spend some time with your journal. So the first question I have for you is currently where you're at. So as you're kind of reflecting on where you are, what's working? Like I said earlier, like if it's working for you to be the only person in your business, what's working about it? Like you're making the money you want and you have the time freedom you want, then no other conversations needed. Like it's working for right now, right? And what we do know is what got you here won't get you there. So if where you're at is like where you want to be, great, stay there. That's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Like I said, I did hair by myself for 13 years, and I loved it. I loved it. Like I had no desire to increase any of it. I loved it, and so recognize that. So what's working, and then what's not working. So like you're recognizing what's working. You're working in your strengths, the things you're passionate about, time versus money, like what Nick just talked about, like time management, money management, energy management, all of that. Is it working? Is it not? Your systems, I think checking in with your systems, like, maybe just changing systems is your first next step to building a team. Like when I got Acuity, I was like, this is cheaper than hiring a personal assistant to go manage, do deposits in the bank and all of that. And so that was my first team member, honestly, here where I'm at. So what is working, what's not working, and just be honest about it. Like no shame in your game. And then the next question I would have you reflect on is what can you hire out right now? Whether that is hiring a teenage daughter, or my teenage daughter does this, a teenage girl or boy to manage your social media. Like she literally has accounts that she manages that are large accounts and small business accounts because they like to be on social media. So why not get paid for it? Hire somebody to do that and she gets paid by the post. Or you could do X, hey, I'll give you $50 a month if you'll make me X amount of posts, whatever it is. Hire social media out, hire out teaching classes. And we're going to talk about that in the second part of this episode. We're going to actually talk about what it looks like to develop your teammates, to start to multiply. You're not duplicating and you're not splitting, like, so yourself, so to speak, you are multiplying, right? And so teaching classes, and again, admin, marketing, taxes, accounting, hiring someone to come in and clean. Like maybe if you're in a studio and you have to go in and clean it, like all of those things, like maybe you hire someone to come do some of those things. And I have some pretty practical ways that you can start to develop the actual in-house team, if you will. And that's what we're going to talk about on the next episode. But I want you to answer those questions first before we dig into all of that, because sometimes it's like, I just want other people to come and teach with me. Great, but you need to know some of these answers first before we talk about that. And I'm going to share very practical ways to go about that, things to look for in people, things to red flags, green flags, all of those things. But what's working, what's not, and then what can you hire out right now if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling, whatever it is. Those are the two questions I want you to reflect on before we chat about what it looks like to build your in-house team of teachers.
I want to add on to that too, and this is actually something I got from you in just previous life and conversations, is sometimes the help you need to hire isn't even in your business. You could hire someone to help with household chores. So for those that are like, I just don't have time. Well, what if you didn't have to fold your laundry or clean the kitchen or even if you just hired someone to come in like once a month or just once in a while to do things, there might be things outside of your business that you can get help with that gives you the time to then work in the business.
And that's something that I truly did learn, like kind of the hard way, but one of my mentors, she's just a virtual mentor. She doesn't know I exist. Maybe one day she will. But she said, I can hire someone for, let's say it was $20 an hour. So for $40, I can hire someone to come in and work in my house for 2 hours, undistracted, all of those things. And I can make probably triple what I'm paying her if I took those same 2 hours and went and did what I could do. And that was like a game changer for me. And even speaking of it right now, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm back in this place where I'm recognizing I need some help with my personal life. Like even in this very moment where I'm like speaking to the choir here, but it's so true. So I can't afford to have someone come and help me in my house. But like, if you're doing what you do well and you are pouring your energy into it and you are doing the work, like you're going to make more money, like probably double, triple what you're paying that person. Again, it can even just be like a teenager. Like I've had girls come in, I wash all the laundry, put it out. All they do is they come in for 2 hours and they fold it, put it away, and then do a couple other things. And it takes off so much. Now my kids all do their own laundry. I have multiplied myself here at this house. Everybody does their own laundry. But I love that. I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's really important to think through. Like, what can I delegate? What can I hire out right now, even if it's not in my actual business?
Yeah, and I think we'll go deeper on the next episode on this. But what can I delete? So there are things that you're doing you probably don't need to be doing anymore, or you can do it less frequently. What can I delete? What can I delegate? And what can I automate? Whether through systems, software, whatever. So something to run that through.
Yeah. Okay. This is good stuff. I'm excited to keep digging in with our teachers about what it looks like to expand their business through their teams and all of those things. So thanks for being here today, guys. We hope that this episode was impactful and that it kind of reached you right where you're at in your business. As always, if you have any questions or any comments or any thoughts, we love hearing from you guys. Make sure that you are subscribed to this podcast. Share it with a friend that could maybe use it as well. And we will see you on the next episode.